Everybody, welcome back to a World of Warships Blitz video. This is a top 10 list. So for the top 10 this time, we will be looking at destruction ratio. So if we go into our service record, the destruction ratio measures the number of ships destroyed, which in my case is 6,648, against the number of times I've been destroyed by the enemy. It's a sort of selfish way of saying how effective are you with the ship. It's a little bit different from win ratio. So you may, for example, play out of position but be ruthlessly effective. So you could have a low win rate but a high destruction ratio. Or, as in my Russian destroyers, you could have a good win rate because you play the caps, but you sort of overextend every time doing it and you get shot up. So it isn't a measure of win rate, it's a measure of effectively how dangerous individually you are in the ship. Now for my top 10, there's a few things that I am going to use to filter the list. So I am not looking at any ship that I've had less than 50 battles in. After 50 things settle down, like the first 20 to 25 battles in the Gnevny, which is the tier 6 Russian destroyer, were spectacular. However, things have settled down. So starting at number 10 here, we have the tier 6 German cruiser, the Nürnberg. Now in the Nürnberg, I have had 190 battles, and in those battles I have destroyed 174 ships and been destroyed 108 times. Now I will have got better with time. Initially I well and truly overextended with cruisers and used them as sort of mini destroyers to try and capture zones. I've got out of that habit, so it's a pretty good showing for the Nürnberg. Now, with its long-range guns, especially those two at the rear, I can keep up a punishing attack and relentless attack on cruisers and destroyers and even battleships at long range. And if you're accurate at long range and manoeuvrable, then you can deal out a lot of damage without getting hammered in return. So the Nürnberg comes in at number 10. And just for your interest, the win rate for that is 55%. Number 9. Number 9 is also a cruiser. Number 9 is a Royal Navy cruiser, my favourite line. It is the Edinboro. Now that has a win rate. So the win rate for the Nürnberg was 1.62. The win rate, or the destruction rate for the Edinboro is 1.63, with 135 ships destroyed and destroyed 83 times over 167 battles. So it doesn't have the same amount of getting killed as the Nürnberg, and it doesn't have the same killing capability, it seems. So a slightly slower battles. It has a win rate of 50% or 49.7. So getting back to 50, it's climbing recently, and it's climbing because of its equipment. So what I have done is with the equipment is I have replaced this turning module with the concealment, and what that does is that brings the concealment down quite nicely to just over 7.5 kilometers. And what that does is that means that I can decide the engagements a lot more. I can make a lot more decisions around what I engage and how I engage and when I engage. And it means that destroyers, the time that they have to set up to be able to prepare or prepare an attack or prepare a response is a lot shorter. So I found that probably lifted the game in the Edinboro as much as my experience in the ship. The Edinboro is number 9. Number 8 we have to go into the tech tree for because I sold it, and I sold it because I actually didn't like it. However, for destruction ratio, sitting at number 8, we have the infamous tier 6 Japanese cruiser, the Aoba. Now, the destruction rate for this ship is 1.64, so 0.01 above the Edinboro. 77 ships destroyed, 47 times killed, over 85 battles, and that was the number of battles I needed to grind through to the tier 7 cruiser, which is the Miyoko. The Oba and I didn't have a happy existence. Initially, I was bitterly disappointed. I knew it wasn't a great ship, but I didn't realise how big a change it was from the Furitaka. A lot of its firepower's in the front. Its guns are very slow loading, so the Furitaka has a reasonable rate of fire. And the torpedoes, the arcs are basically to the rear. So you're sort of fighting with half its firepower at a time, no matter what you're doing. It is sluggish and slow, it's large, and it is not very heavily armoured. And it's a popular target. A game in the Aoba basically consisted of, if I was shot at first, it was a terrible game. If I wasn't shot at first, it may have been okay, and if I wasn't shot at much at all, it was a great game. But the Aoba comes in, and that surprises me a little bit, at number 8. At number 7, we have a ship that I definitely still have, and we can go back out of the tech tree and into my port to find the ship, and we will scroll in the direction of the Wichita, which is the tier 8 American cruiser. The Wichita is the cruiser that first starts to show the limitations of the range of the American cruiser guns. So it feels slightly short-ranged, and the Baltimore, that feels a little bit more pronounced. That saying, it has a 54% win rate, and it has 156 ships destroyed for 85 times destroyed. No, hold on, 144 ships destroyed for 87 times destroyed, for 1.66. So there's a lot between, in the 1.6 area. It is a good cruiser. It's you can see that I've got one of the equipment slot loaded up with AA, because what I've found with the American cruisers is that although they seem to have a slow rudder shift, once you get the rudder shift going, they actually turn around pretty well. So I played it for quite a while until I felt confident that I could put the AA in that slot. Anyway, that has a fairly good destruction ratio, sitting in at number 7. At number 6, we go back to a ship that is next to a ship that I've talked about. The destruction ratio is for the Fiji. And again, I think this has probably been helped because of the concealment. So the Fiji is basically a lighter, smaller Edinboro, or a larger, heavier Leander with greater firepower. And that has, the Fiji has a destruction ratio that consists of, it must be 163, I think I've got a typo, for 97 times destroyed. Let's go check the Fiji, because in my spreadsheet it comes out on top, but yes, it doesn't seem to come out. So win rate, number of battles, let's just go find some British flags here. Emerald, get up there. Warspite, Fubuki. So the Fiji has, should be further up than that. Sorry everybody. Right, the Fiji has a destruction ratio of 1.68. So for 163, that's right, 163 ships destroyed for 97 times destroyed. Yeah, considering the fact that a lot of games face heavy capital ships, and these ships are a bit of a struggle, that against those, I'm pretty proud of that. So the Fiji, and I do enjoy the ship. It is a great ship. If you like British cruisers. If you're not a British cruiser player, then yeah, no, sorry. Right, number 5. is not a surprise either. It is my favourite ship, and as you can see, I've gone out and bought the historical camo, is the Leander. And if you have a look at the loadout, it looks very familiar. In fact, these ships are very much a line with slight improvements, each a slight improvement over the last. So this has, the Fiji has 3 guns per turret, this has 2 guns per turret. It's the first of the British cruiser to have proper turrets rather than guns mounted in on the deck essentially. Yeah, so the Leander is a fantastic ship. It has a lot of battles, 321. 296 ships destroyed for 174 times destroyed. And again, that's probably improving because I had a real tendency to overextend. I still overextend a bit, and but I'm getting better at getting out of those situations. So at the moment, it's number 6. But and it may have a long history to overcome, so it may not rise. However, it's 1.7 over 1.68 for the Fiji. Number 4. Number 4 is actually a little bit of a surprise, although it's a ship that I enjoyed, and we will be going to find that ship in here. It is the Tier 8 Japanese battleship, the Amagi, which has a destruction ratio of 1.72, so it's a slight lift over the previous. 141 ships destroyed for 82 times destroyed. That's learning how to play it to its strengths, and I have an Amagi video that I'll post that shows me playing it to its strengths against a couple of battleships. It has good long range, it has reasonable speed, it has, well, for a battleship anyway, a reasonable amount of manoeuvrability. This is a fairly typical battleship build for me, although the disbursement is it's usually what happens at Tier 8, but it's unusual for this battleship because normally for the Tirpitz or the Bismarck, I have the turret traverse, because in brawling range you can't wait for those turrets to come around, but for the Amagi it fights at longer range, so the dispersion is the better choice. I do enjoy plugging away at destroyers, and I do get the occasional lucky kill at long range with HE and the advanced aiming. There's nothing like knocking a third of the health off the destroyer early in the battle to send the signal to stay away. So I like the Amagi, love the ship. 1.72 destruction ratio. Number 3. Number 3 is definitely a surprise. It is, because it's a ship that I do not enjoy playing at all. In fact, I've been looking to sell it, and you're lucky that I haven't. It is the Tier 6 US battleship, the New Mexico. Now, destruction ratio means that I've killed a lot of things with it. So it doesn't mean that I haven't died a lot. Well, it means that I haven't died a lot, but it means that I have killed a lot of things. The number of battles I've had with this is 83. 68 ships destroyed and 37 times destroyed, which actually means that it's not seeing a lot of action. It's not doing a lot of good. It has a 49% win rate. But yeah, so the number of ships destroyed is well less than the number of battles. That's the same for the Amagi. Well, it's actually the same for all of them. Okay, right. That's a sobering thought. However, what I've found with New Mexico, and you can see that I have tried to boost its speed because it takes so long to get into a capture zone. It's one of those ships that I struggle with. I like to contribute to the victory of the team, and because capture zones play so much of a part in the game, I do struggle with the American battleship line. I've managed to get to the Colorado, and I should probably try and get to the North Carolina, which is a bit faster. But overall, I've struggled with them, which is why I'm surprised it's at number 3. At number 2 is also a surprise, and I no longer have it, so I'm straight back into the tech tree. And it was my highest the victory rate. So for my for my win rate, it was my number one, and it is the Omaha, which is the Tier 5 American cruiser. So it's the cruiser where suddenly I realised potentially the American cruiser line. I've sold it because I don't really enjoy playing it that much. I prefer centerline mounted turrets. I prefer being able to fire all my guns rather than however many guns happen to be facing the right direction. And as you can see, that's got guns mounted in casements, as well as a couple of turret front and rear. So it's not an enjoyable ship. It's got torpedo tubes as well, which is nice, but to be fair, American cruisers, I'm perfectly happy with the big guns of the Pensacola or the New Orleans rather than torpedo tubes. However, it's my second highest destruction ratio at 1.86 over 1.84 for the New Mexico. 54 ships destroyed for 29 times destroyed over 56 battles. Long enough to get through to the Tier 6 Pensacola, which has not quite the same stats, but a lot more battles at 201. Pensacola is a fun ship. Number one is no surprise at all for me. Number one is a ship that I love probably more than any other except for the Leander, and it is the Congo. The Congo is a battle cruiser, and it is perfect for me and my style. So I've played it a lot, 321 battles. It has a high win ratio of 63.55, and whereas the Omaha has 1.86 kill ratio, the Congo has 2.24. So 313 ships destroyed for 140 ships, 140 times destroyed. I'll use the Congo happily for anything. I'll brawl, although I'll take care doing it. I'll go after cruisers, obviously, and I'll even hunt down destroyers quite happily. Now that I've got the baiting of torpedoes and dodging and predicting of general torpedo behaviour sorted, this is a great ship, and loading it up with HE and shooting up destroyers can be an awful lot of fun. Not a lot of points, but some games, they just happen to have a lot of destroyers, so I'm fine with that, and the stats show it. So I am at my most dangerous in the Congo. Well, almost. There's one honourable mention that I do need to make. So it didn't make the cut because it didn't fit the rules, and it's not that it didn't have enough battles, it's just not high enough tier. So whereas the Congo trucks in at 2.24 kill ratio, the Mikasa more than doubles it at 5.69. So the Mikasa, I've had 81 battles in it, and the Mikasa has destroyed 165 ships and only been destroyed 29 times. So basically, although the win ratio for the ship is 48%, and Tier 3 games are a lot to do with that, and being too slow to basically defend or capture zones is another reason for that. The ship itself is fantastic at printing battle medals, battle stars, Confederate medals, Iron Fortresses, Krakens, First Strikes, you name it. This ship prints those battle medals beautifully. So if my mission is to achieve a certain number of battle medals or kill 2 cruisers in a game, this is my go-to ship. So the number of battles is slowly climbing. It's an incredible ship if you have specific missions to perform, although, it's a Tier 2 battleship, so it doesn't generate much income, but it has its use, and it gets an honourable mention because it's so far and above the rest. Anyway, those are the ships that I am most dangerous in. I hope that you enjoyed it, and it will be interesting to hear what ships people find that they have that they are most dangerous in. What is your highest destruction ratio ship, and what is it? What is that destruction ratio? If you put it in the comments, be keen to see. Anyway, there you go, another top 10 list. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.